Are there films or literary sources that influenced your approach to storytelling?
Yes, yes, of course. I think I say of course because I can't imagine not being influenced by other films and books, whatever, and still wanting to make a movie or write a play or do something like that. I think as a kid, I'm 79 years old now, but when I in the early 50s, when I was going to the movies, there were a lot of science fiction and horror films that myself and my friends were crazy about. There was something about those films that thrilled us and scared us a little bit. And I'd see some of those films three, four, 10 times. And the ones I liked the most were the ones that had something on their mind other than just being a horror picture. I'm aware, at least my opinion is, that you have to have a good story to begin with, and interesting characters, and the whole idea of the exercise is to entertain an audience, to make people, to move them somehow in ways that are pleasurable or and let's face it, fear is a very pleasurable experience when experienced in a movie theater with a couple of hundred other people around you, so that in case you get a little too frightened, you could always turn around and ask for help from somebody sitting next to you on either side. But what really made me sit up and take notice was when I saw some of the horror films of the day that had more on their mind than just a horror film and not just a scary story. Uh, I remember, for instance, seeing Don Siegel's film Invasion of the Body Snatchers, made in the early 50s, that seemed to be uh, a, I can't think of the word now, seemed to be a cautionary tale about conformity, the dangers of conformity, possibly uh, even embracing some themes about the dangers of all people having removed from themselves all emotions, all feelings, and becoming just one of a large herd or a mass. And later it was sort of toyed with the idea that the film maybe had something to do with Russia and with the fact that there was a Cold War going on and that we had to fear the Russians because they would try to bring to our country a philosophy that was dangerous because it took away all individuality. Uh, Human emotions all of a sudden were not taken into consideration, and which is what happened in the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Big seed pods came from outer space and replicated human beings, and these seed pods were just mannequin type characters, but they would be whoever you were, minus your feelings, minus the ability to love or to hate or any of that. It was a scary film to begin with. But when I started to think about it in those terms, it scared the hell out of me, I'll tell you. And the other one, the movies I liked were the big bug pictures. We had just dropped bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And a few years later, up comes a whole crop of movies about the dangers of radioactivity, of the fallout from bombs, and usually the ideas of these films centered around uh, big bugs being created because of that. There was a film called Them about giant ants, and there was the tarantula, which was about, of course, a giant tarantula. And in each of these films that had all the big bugs and everything, they also had scientists who were culpable in some way for some of what happened. And it was a mistrust of science, actually, that I think we had at that time, or that people were feeling a different feeling about science and scientists. There were two movies that came out at the time. One was called I Was a Teenage Werewolf, and the other was I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. And in both of these films, doctors who were therapists and so forth had purposely entrapped these young teenage boys into situations and with illicit drugs that they felt would be good for their research, but not necessarily taking into consideration what that might do to the kids in the movies. And what it did was it turned one into a werewolf and the other one into Frankenstein. So all of a sudden, here's another message: do not trust scientists. Do not trust science. This is all. They're subliminal messages, but they're not. They say something that they want to get your attention about something, and they put it in the form of a very colorful or dramatic feature that seems to not be saying what it is saying and giving you another message instead. I think Emmett and I had the same ideas about Without a Name. We wanted to make a good, exciting film, a thriller, something scary, something moving in one way or another. But we also wanted the film to have something on its mind. So when we were first working with the idea of this film, first we had a story in mind we wanted to tell, and it seemed like a provocative enough story. And then later, when we started actually writing the film and putting things, following what you have to do to create a good script, or what we thought was a good script anyway, was to give it something beyond just what it is. It's not just a film about a man and his son going fishing and finding themselves in a strange town with a lot of strange people. In fact, if anything, the film might be an allegory, a piece about something other than what the story is about. And that's the same thing that was in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. On one level, it was just a very scary film. On the second level, that was the hidden level, really, of what they were trying to do, was to create a treatise on nonconformity and conformity. And what we picked, as the story unfolded for us, as we began to explore it, we realized that we were getting at a whole other sacred cow. That's a hint, by the way, as to what it might be. Another sacred cow that could possibly be something we could spin a tale about. I don't think it's giving anything away to say that in Without a Name, things are not as they appear in the small town that the man and his boy go to fish in. And the man who thinks he's there because his son had heard that there was good fishing in this town has actually manipulated the father into coming out to this town for a specific purpose, which benefited the young man, but not his father. I won't say any more, and I hope that blows your skirt up a little bit so that you can say, God, I've got to see that. But that's pretty much what we had in mind. And I must say this, too. The actors in the film were exemplary. It was amazing, There's not one star in the picture, not one big name, but each person brings to what they do a great finesse and a great understanding that usually players don't get until somewhere midway through their career, perhaps. You know, if you see the work of most any good actor, you'll see that they've gotten good as they've gone along, and I think these folks, it was magical to me to see them working at the level of expertise that they displayed in the filming. And Emmett and I were both like, "Wow, we were just lucky, you know. We caught this great cast, and on top of it, there weren't a lot of hijinks on the set and so forth. These kids were wanted to work. I worked as an actor for a lot of years, and I have to tell you that I didn't have, at the beginning of my career, anywhere near the polish and understanding that these young actors had. So I was very pleased with the result. And I'm sure there will be some people who may even be a little bit offended by the jabs we're taking at certain sacred cows, but I think it's something worth seeing for everybody. You don't have to agree with our idea here, but you have to like watch it and see it and give it a fair shake to see, are these things applicable, you know, in other ways in my life. That's all I'll say. I probably said too much. Thank you very much.